Welcome back to 70 times 7, the platform where the dynamics of forgiveness is explored. When we left off, Busi, you were speaking about Mandela coming to the school and you being there with, among other parents, and he chose your daughter.
Yeah.
Would you like to just
Yes.
wrap it up there for
Yes,
us?
I'm glad to narrate what happened. You know, as he was approaching us, I was praying in my heart. I said, Lord, I wish he could, hold my child, because I know he's fond of children. Man, little did I know that prayer was going to be answered. Because
So you mean that God answers your prayer?
yes, definitely.
We should take our request to him first and
Well,
let him take it up for us.
Yes, so my wife was standing next to me, and I didn't tell her that I'm really wishing that he should hold my child. And he came right straight to us. And the bodyguards were trying to stop us from reaching out to him, but he said, no, leave them to come, or rather to touch me. And he came and he said, sir, can I have the pleasure, in his own way, can I have the pleasure of holding your child? So I said, by all means. In fact, I nearly threw that child at him. That's how excited I was. And he held this child, and my daughter cried in my heart, said, please, girl, in my heart, I'm saying, don't spoil the moment, it's so wonderful, and she never realized who was holding her. But it was a momentous day.
It's amazing. You are blessed.
Yes, I was
And
blessed.
your daughter is also blessed.
Yeah.
You know what's the unique thing about Nelson Mandela is not just his experience in exile and going to Robben Island. For me, I'm talking about. Not just the amount of years he spent in the struggle for freedom, the freedom that we can enjoy as South Africans. But for me, the thing that stands out when I recall the story of Nelson Mandela is that God had used one man to heal an entire nation.
Yeah.
And in fact, the whole world acknowledges that through Mandela, the healing process started in South Africa.
Yeah.
And it made me wonder, I've always had the question, is it possible for us to experience forgiveness on a national scale?
Yeah.
That is one virtue that I really salute him, because it puts us to look up to him.
Yeah.
Imagine spending time in jail for 27 years.
Yes, that's a long time.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
And in fact, after his inauguration as a president of South Africa, he was interviewed in the television, and I watched very closely. And the first question was, how come you could forgive these people after spending 24 years in jail? And he said, it's a very classic answer, and he said, because I came out matured.
Wow. Yeah.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So actually, when we are teaching our children, Busi, just remind me to get back to this point,
Okay,
right?
okay.
But when we are teaching our children to forgive one another, you know that my daughter steals my son's toy and I tell, forgive him, Leandra. When we do that, we are actually helping our children mature.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because if
Yeah.
if Mandela can say,
Yeah.
after 27 years, June it's 27, not 24, okay? After 27 years, we forgive you. This is a forgiveness program.
Yeah.
We forgive
That's
you.
right,
yeah.
After 27 years, he says, right, because I came out mature. So we are actually training, we are actually helping our children to mature and grow.
My wife loves a song that says, trials make pure gold. And I think as we go through trials, that like Nelson Mandela, he learned that indeed, that experience which was meant to break him and make him hate his enemies, made him emerge as a hero.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's amazing.
And to hear him saying that I am now mature, which means that I'm just inferring from what he's saying, that you have to, forgiveness is a sign of maturity.
That's true. That's
Definitely.
true.
You can never forgive somebody, especially if they've done something horrendous to you. You can never forgive them unless you have matured, unless something inside you has happened.
You know, the Bible says, when I was a child, I thought like a child, I behaved like a child, I did everything like a
Definitely.
child. But
That's
when
true.
I
Became a man.
became a man,
Yeah.
I began to speak like a man and,
Yeah.
behave and act like a man.
And by the way, that's gender inclusive.
Yeah.
true, yeah.
Thank you, Busi, for alerting us about that, because we know your wife will take you to task for that. But
She'll
when,
forgive me.
when the Bible says that, before we come to Christ, we were immature. Not just spiritually, but emotionally as well. Because to forgive really drains you emotionally. You have to
does.
really humble yourself, you know. You have to completely be selfless.
So Paul, for a Christian who's been there in church for 30 years and could not forgive, so he's still a baby.
Yeah, we have a lot of adults.
Yeah, that's a sobering thought actually, because we could be having kindergarten people in our church who are adults, but they have not yet matured to that level of forgiving other people, because they still say, I know people would say, I will not speak to so-and-so. They don't even want to wash the feet of other people because of that.
It's sad.
Yeah.
But when it comes to Mandela, I'm so glad that through the example of Mandela, God has shown us the power of forgiveness.
Yeah.
Not just to
It's
heal
interesting. It's interesting that you are saying that through Mandela, God has shown us.
Yeah,
know,
no,
the
I
power.
believe with all my heart,
Yes,
Busi,
yeah.
that Mandela was the conduit and the channel
Yes,
that God had used
Yeah.
to bring healing to
Yeah.
our beautiful nation.
So it simply means God is still in charge. He's in control of human affairs. There are people who believe that God, has left us to suffer. He
Abandoned us.
Yes, he created this world. It's a philosophy called deism, where they say that God created the world and gave us everything, but he left us to operate on our own, so that if anything wrong happens, he's not affected by what's happening. But it's not true. In the history of South Africa, we can see God using Nelson Mandela to become an icon of forgiveness, and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah. So in the overall plan of God, I mean, Mandela has a part of healing this nation at this particular time.
Yeah.
You know, God
Yeah,
can use
yeah.
anyone, June.
Yeah.
In the Bible,
So-
remember he used Balaam's donkey.
Yeah,
He used Nebuchadnezzar,
Yeah.
a wicked king, to write a chapter in the
Yeah,
Bible.
yeah.
So the instruments God used is left up to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful that of all the people God chose to use,
Chose
he
Mandela.
used Nelson Mandela. I tell you, if God had given me his throne for 1 second, right, I would have somehow chosen somebody who I know or I think is good.
Yeah.
But God in his wisdom, he knows all things. And he chose Nelson Mandela to be the channel to bring healing to the nation. Yes, it's very clear that forgiveness that flows from the heart of God can heal a nation. It has been confirmed and clarified. When we get back, we'll explore this aspect a little more. Please stay with us.